federal government wastes a lot of your money. If you're like me, you're a taxpayer. That means your taxes come from the products you buy, the property you own, and the paychecks you earn. Now, I've been studying taxation for the past 3 weeks to better understand how it works, and it's led me to the conclusion that we should protest the federal government and the high taxes that it imposes on us. I want to tell you about the ways the federal government taxes you, what they spend it on, and who they spend it on. And I want you to understand the ways federal government tries to tax you. Remember, some of these taxes may be considered immoral and at times an abuse of power by the federal government. Wall Street staff writer Alexander Hest writes a comprehensive list of 7 ways you're taxed by the government. The first being income tax, which is the tax on your paycheck. The next is sales tax, which is a tax of the transactions you make between 2 or more people on goods or services. The next is the payroll tax. The payroll tax is the tax that goes directly to Social Security and Medicare. The next is property tax, which is, of course, the tax on property. The next 3 taxes are considered far more controversial. The gift tax being the tax that comes from one person giving away their wealth and property to a person of their choosing. It's considered controversial due to the fact that that person owns that property, so they feel that they may do with it what they may without government interference. The next is the estate tax. Similar to the gift tax, it's the tax that's put when someone dies, so their wealth and property must go to someone of their will or next of kin. Now, it's in the same boat as gift tax, but with the aura of that someone's died, and it's supposed to be a time of grievance, but the government feels that they should also get their fair share in. And then there's the excess tax. The excess tax comes from the fact that government wants to disincentivize certain practices that people would have, such as smoking, gambling, alcohol. So they decide to tax those differently, called the excess tax, also called the sin tax. Now, the reason why people find it controversial is because the government works outside their wheelhouse, trying to incentivize us and manipulate us by using taxes to not buy a specific product. And it can hurt us in our choices and the company that produces that product that we want. Now, you spend a lot of money from these taxes, but what does it all go to? What is it being spent on? Well, Jeff Rinskoff, a personal financer, writes a list of monetary provisions called earmarks. Earmarks are a rainy day fund that the government uses to fund random projects of their choosing. So they can fund projects such as $172 million on penis pumps, $1.3 million studying foam cozies, $325,000 on self-reheating mugs, $3 million on studying steroids on hamsters, $100 million on unused plane tickets, and $1.7 billion on abandoned buildings. Now, it's not uncommon for government to waste a lot of money on certain projects like this, such as the auto bail, when companies of Ford, Chrysler, and GM forced Congress to lend them money because they had over 1 million workers that they'd have to lay off if they didn't do so. Congress gave them $81 billion, and to be fair, Chrysler and Ford gave them back their money, but GM is still owing $10 billion to the American taxpayer. It's important to note that GM had to recall 800,000 of their vehicles due to the fact of faulty equipment. Now, I think it's important to note this due to the fact that the government, with government bailouts, it incentivizes mediocrity in a lot of companies that get those bailouts. It gives them a safety net so their products can be bad. So they allow their products to be bad, and they don't even have to try because they know that the government will help them, which I believe is what makes products dangerous and what makes companies that don't try can actually hurt the consumer. Now, they're trying to save companies. That's what bailouts do. They're trying to fund projects. But what if you're just giving money to companies that don't even need it? When we talk about subsidies, subsidies are a form of financial aid which is used to promote practices like financial economic practices like quality and quantity of production, customer services, communications, and diversity of employment. Sam Becker, a financial writer, writes that these companies can receive $92 billion. Subsidies have gave us $92 billion to fund companies like Royal Dutch Shell, Fiat Chrysler, Ford, General Motors, Intel, Boeing, and Nike and Alcoa. And those companies, even though they consider them to have good economic practices, some people consider them to be non-ethical. Such as Nike. When Sarah Spellings, a clothing writer, writes about Nike, they talk about how they take advantage of foreign labor, literally paying their workers over $95 a month. Now, they take advantage of this labor. It's important to note that other companies take advantage of foreign labor, such as Nike. But again, our government incentivizes Nike. It pays them almost $2 billion. And it just states that, yes, they're willing to pay companies that can take advantage of people. Not exactly the most moral thing. The government overtaxes you. It funds worthless projects, and it funds bad companies. And I asked anyone, people who complain and whine about how much they're being taxed, to help me protest against these high taxes that they enforce on us.